Most of you know Sean Ashmore from The Rookie, Aidan Gillen from Peaky Blinders, Lance Reddick from John Wick, or even Dominic Monaghan from The Lord of the Rings. But what happens if you combine all of them into a single video game? Well, a week ago, I was on a plane from Spain back to America, and I had decided to watch Interstellar on my phone. Once I finished, I had a sort of void in my heart, yearning for more of these time-traveling stories. Yes, I know, Interstellar isn't all about time travel, but it's what I felt at the time, okay? Don't judge me. And boom, here comes Quantum Break. I looked at the game price. I looked at my bank account. In order to 100% this game, there's one thing we have to do. Set the difficulty to hard.
Ooh, you're hard.
Now, you may be thinking, but a game about decisions and time travel isn't going to be all that hard. All I can say, bullet sponges. Bullet sponges. Anyways, we launched straight into the game, and the first thing to note is that we are sitting across from someone called Clarice. She is interviewing us from Monarch Solutions. We'll get to them real soon. Anyways, we essentially play as Jack Joyce, who's telling the story as a flashback. We initially get introduced to many essential characters right off the bat. The first one here is Nick, our taxi driver, the one with the creepy smile, but we absolutely love him. Then we get introduced to Amy, who... No, wait. Yeah, that might not have been the best. And here we see Mr. Aura Farmer himself, Liam.
Prick.
Sorry. Anyways, Paul Serene, our best friend and a crazy physicist who decided to call us over to a college campus at 4 a.m. for a goddamn physics experiment.
Enjoy your booty call.
I wish, Amy. I really wish. Here we get our very first achievement for just listening to his presentation.
Progress.
We then get introduced to his experiment. He pretty much just bosses us around and makes us set the whole thing up. Now, you may be asking, what is this machine?
It's a time machine.
Ding ding ding, you are all correct. This right here is a time machine, but it works completely different from what you might expect. This one here requires walking. Yep, you heard it here first, folks. You would literally need to get up from your chair and walk in order to time travel. Sucks, right? Anyways, Paul decides to do a little test where he goes 2 minutes into the past, but before he is even able to walk into the machine, another Paul pops straight out. Basically what happened was that the future Paul comes out of the machine and tells the past Paul to go into the machine to complete the loop so that the Paul from the future will be able to appear to tell the other Paul to then continue the loop.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Paul then decides he wants to test his luck even further and run a 5-minute test. But before we delete
that shit, bro. Delete it.
Before we are even able to press the button, a crazy man with a gun appears, points it right at Jack, and tells him not to run this test. We then learn this right here is Will, Jack's brother. But as any brother would do, Jack doesn't listen to him. Before anyone can do anything, the reactor implodes on itself. Thus, we have the 2020 pandemic.
Okay, let's see here. Toilet paper? Toilet paper? Toilet paper? Toilet paper? Toilet paper?
We then get the achievement for being there when time broke. This implosion causes everything to freeze in time in what is called a stutter. Paul and Jack are somehow able to wake up and walk around in this frozen world. We see Jack able to free his brother from this animated state, resulting in Will whispering,
She warned me.
and like every good game, show, and movie, we have absolutely no clue who she is. The stutter then collapses, and we see Monarch soldiers swarm the lab and start firing with no questions asked. Paul, still stuck in the machine, decides to walk through time in order to escape, while Jack and Will duck into the sublevels of the lab. Will points out that Jack's hands are glowing, and Jack, fortunately, is innately able to use his powers to save his brother as a guard turns the corner and fires at them. Now, our objective here is simple. We need to get to Will's car and grab whatever he needs to stop the stutter. And on our way there, we blast through waves of Monarch soldiers. And as we exit the building, we see them grabbing students on campus. We ignore all of that like any good person would, and head straight through the building to get to the parking lot. Here, we learn a new ability called Time Vision. This allows us to see enemies through walls as well as items and collectibles. After defeating the enemies, we learn another ability, which is to see quantum ripples, echoes of the past that guide Jack to the objectives. After trying to get into the car, we get ambushed again, this time learning about Time Stop, which shoots out a bubble of frozen time that traps enemies and bullets and can be exploded by shooting into it. Will is then captured while we are fighting the enemies. As we chase after Will, we get a gun pointed straight to our head. This right here is Beth Wilder. And meeting her actually gives us another achievement. She tells us our brother is in the library, and as the pattern continues, we learn another ability called Time Rush, which is pretty much just our dash ability. On our way to the library, we get to see another mechanic, which is using our time stop ability to slow down environmental obstacles to be able to cross them. As we are about to sneakily enter the library, we get spotted and then instantly unspotted. In the library, we learn yet another ability. Yes, I know, it isn't repetitive at all. This one is Time Shield, which, as you've guessed, is a shield to stop all incoming damage. After defeating all the enemies in this hall, we get to leave the library with our brother, but then we hear a very familiar voice.
Jack!
It looks like Paul is leading all these soldiers to come end us. Why? I don't know. Well, it turns out he doesn't actually want to kill us. He wants to kill our brother. We, with all of our brand new abilities, fight and stand as an equal. Never mind. We get our ass handed to us, and after watching our brother get smushed by rubble, Liam comes over and hits us with the butt of a gun, knocking us completely out, resulting in us getting the achievement for completing Act 1. We are then able to control Paul, which is going to be a very reoccurring pattern at the end of every single act. This is what is called a junction. We have two options given to us. The first option here is the hardline approach. End Amy's life, as well as all the other witnesses' lives, thus protecting Monarch's secrets. This results in us working with Nick, and the public's opinion of Monarch drops heavily. The second option is the PR approach. We spare their lives, and Monarch uses Amy in a massive PR stunt to turn the public's hatred towards Jack. But as a result, Amy actually works with us later and helps us retrieve Monarch's secrets. For this run, I decided to choose the hardline approach, keeping Monarch's secret completely safe, as that's what I thought Paul would probably do. And at this point in time, all of the decisions that we have made and all the certain interactables that we decided to, interact with have designated a specific path for us. And this path can actually be seen in the live action TV shows that are bundled with the game. I'll honestly just link a full YouTube video in the description that shows all the different choices and their exact results in the show. Otherwise, this would be like a 2-hour video. With our decisions officially made, we move on to Act 2. Alright, Act 2 kicks off, and surprise surprise, we wake up inside a Monarch van in the old industrial area. But before we can even process our headache, we look over and see Liam and Beth casually pointing guns at each other. Right as things are about to get messy, time stutters again. Jack apparently decides he's done playing games, sneaks past them, and just straight up jacks their weapons while they're frozen. Here we also learn about chronon sources, which are just glowing upgrade points hidden around the different acts that let us level up our powers. We climb up out of the warehouse, time resumes, and we track down a security station. We pick up an earpiece and get Beth on the other line, who tells us we're right next to a massive chronon harvesting operation, and that Paul is nearby. Perfect. It's time to go get some revenge for our brother. Moving deeper into the facility, we hear some screaming and stumble upon a Monarch execution squad about to end our favorite taxi driver, Nick. But a guard pulls a gun on Nick, and fortunately for him, the weapon jams. We surprise them from the window, clear out the room, and rescue our boy. Because we chose the hardline approach in Act 1, poor Amy is already in a body bag. Nick sees us literally bending reality and is absolutely losing his mind. He tells us he can guide us to the dry docks via Ground Zero, but he's going to stay back and handle the comms, which is honestly fair enough. Naturally, the path forward is blocked by an absolute army of Monarch soldiers, but the game decides we haven't been given a new ability in at least 5 minutes, so it hands us a brand new toy, Time Blast. We line up the shot, drop a Time Blast on their head, and boom, instant achievement for a triple kill. We push forward into Ground Zero, which is the site of Will's old secret workshop. Here we run into two completely different types of annoying enemies. The first is a giant tank that takes way too many shots to kill. The second is these annoying speedster guys equipped with chronon devices that allow them to move completely freely inside the stutters. As we get closer, time completely breaks down and starts running in reverse. We literally watch a future version of ourselves climb a fence and look right at us. We step into the workshop and get a massive lore dump via temporal echoes. Will actually built a massive functional time machine right here, but he also realized the end of time was coming, so he built a fail-safe device to stop it called the countermeasure. Before we can find it, we search a nearby trailer and grab Will's briefcase, which has a key to the Bradbury swimming pool and his old cell phone. As we exit the lab, we see Serene hopping into a helicopter. We try to shoot at him, but Paul decides to flex and blasts a massive crane with time energy, causing a rusty giant boat to collapse directly on top of us. Luckily, a time stutter triggers, freezing the massive shipwreck mid-air. We use our powers to platform across floating shipping crates, while the world is literally tearing itself apart. We make it to the top of the dry docks, completely out of breath, only to find Beth Wilder waiting for us with a Monarch van. We still don't trust this woman, so we try to hold her at gunpoint and hijack the van. Bad idea. She immediately counters us, hits us with the gun, and tells us to just sit down and shut up like a good boy. Then Beth drives us straight to the Bradbury swimming pool, which is where Will hid his other original time machine. We get inside, look at the machine, and unlock yet another achievement for finding it. Through testing, we figure out that this machine is kind of broken and we need to find someone to fix it. This said person was at the gala that Paul had invited us to earlier. And just like that, we hit Junction 2. We switch back over to Paul, who is dealing with a massive internal corporate crisis, dying from Chronon syndrome, and his second in command, Martin Hatch, is acting highly suspicious. Paul has two options here. Option 1 is business. Focus strictly on Monarch, ignore his past, and go full corporate dictator. Option 2 is personal. Focus entirely on his history with Jack and try to handle things with a personal touch. In this run, I just chose the business path. With this choice made, we head straight into Act 3. Act 3 drops us right into Gull Island. Now, if you watched the live action TV show right before this from Act 2, you know that Martin Hatch actually went behind Paul's back and released us from our holding cell. So, kicking off the actual gameplay, we are immediately infiltrating the high security Monarch research facility. Our goal here is simple: find safe passage for Beth and track down Dr. Sophia Amaral, the head scientist who holds the key to making the time machine actually work. Right out of the gate, a guard spots us and tries to slam the blast doors right in our face, but the game decides it's time for us to learn another ability, giving us Time Rush. This is essentially an ultra fast dash that lets us sprint past the doors in slow motion and pull off a melee takedown. As we fight our way deeper into the facility, we run into some engineering puzzles, and I use that word very loosely because it literally just involves us walking up to an old broken cannon, holding down a button to reverse it in time, and using that as a makeshift ladder. Once inside the actual labs, we hit a massive dead zone where our screen glitches out and our powers completely vanish. Turns out, Monarch built a Chronon dampener to shut down time benders. We then turn off the machine and instantly get blindsided by a brand new flavor of enemies, Monarch Juggernauts.
I'm in danger!
These absolute units are dressed in Chronon resistant armor and carry rocket launchers. Normal bullets do absolutely nothing, so we have to maneuver around to the glowing battery pack on their backs to shred them. We eventually reach Sophia's office, grab a custom temporal harness for Beth. We realize that Amaral is actually at the gala, and as Jack runs out of Amaral's office, we immediately slam straight into a massive firefight against a bunch of Monarch guys in the garage. While we're clearing the room, Beth clutches up over the comms, lying to Monarch security by telling them we actually fled into the tunnels.
This is Homeguard 5. You spotted him entering the tunnel system outside the party grounds.
From here, another massive time stutter triggers, freezing the world around us. We fight our way through some more enemies and finally reach the Monarch Gala. We find Beth completely frozen in place, so we use our powers to free her from the stutter and hand her the mini Chronon dampener harness we grabbed earlier, so she can move around with us. With Beth back on her feet, we push through the party decor to locate Dr. Amaral, only to find her frozen while actively getting attacked by a rogue drone. Jack uses his powers to free Amaral from the time stutter and tries to convince her to come with us, but before she can even process what's happening, the stutter violently collapses, reality snaps back, and everything goes completely sideways. Beth and Amaral immediately hop onto a getaway boat, but they're trapped because the security gate is locked shut. Jack has to stay behind on foot, fighting through waves of guards just to reach the controls and open the gates to let the boat out to safety. Once the girls escape, our job isn't done. The facility goes into absolute overdrive, throwing even more enemies at us as we try to find our own way out. Luckily, we stumble upon Paul's personal luxury car just sitting there. We hijack it, take it on a sweet little joyride as we violently smash through the facility gates and leave Monarch in our dust. And just like that, we hit Junction 3. We switch back over to Paul at the gala, and right away we see that he actually has the countermeasure in his possession. Paul is absolutely furious that Dr. Amaral has been abducted, and he aggressively attacks Hatch in a fit of rage. Right as things get heated, Paul's Crohn's disease violently acts up. Instead of a normal medical condition, his body literally starts glitching out, making him look like he's dissolving and disappearing straight into thin air. Despite the literal physical breakdown, he still has to make a critical corporate choice. Option 1 is Sophia Amaral, focused entirely on finding the doctor and putting full faith in her research. Option 2 is Martin Hatch, look past the suspicious behavior and trust his right-hand man to keep the company unified. For this run, I decided to play right into the paranoia and chose to trust Martin Hatch. Paul makes his choice, the timeline fractures even further, and we charge straight into Act 4. Alright, Act 4 kicks off with Jack hiding inside a building, trying to figure out how to cross the river to meet up with Beth and Dr. Amaral. He looks outside and sees that Monarch has the entire area locked down. Our plan is simple, sneak quietly under the bridge and slip past the madness. But right as we are making progress, some random civilian dumbass decides to be loud as hell, shouting directly at us, pretty much just telling Monarch guards exactly where we are. Naturally, the entire area goes into alert, forcing us to gun our way up onto the bridge. Because we chose the hardline path back in Act 1, the crowd is absolutely not having it. Tempers are flaring and Monarch decides to skip the crowd control and straight up starts shooting at the unarmed civilian. But right as we hit the main deck, a massive time stutter slams into the world, freezing the chaos. But the game decides we haven't suffered enough, throwing another giant juggernaut at us. We play a high-stakes game of Ring Around the Rosie, dodging the blasts, and shred his battery to clear the deck. With the big guy dead, we are officially home free. The exact moment we think we're safe, the stutter violently collapses, reality snaps back, and a massive runaway boat slams directly into the bridge. The entire structure starts completely tearing itself apart. The stutters start going absolutely mental, violently freezing and unfreezing the destruction. We had to parkour our way through a literal kaleidoscope of twisting metal and exploding debris. We sprint, jump, and climb through the glitching wreckage until we run completely out of solid ground. The entire bridge finally collapsing into the river, Jack takes a massive leap of faith and dives straight into the water below. After we dry off, we finally link back up with Beth and Dr. Amaral and get back to the time machine. Our goal here is simple. Try to convince Amaral to actually help us fix Will's original time machine. Amaral isn't just some regular hostile scientist. She's completely indoctrinated by Paul's vision. She tells us that whatever Monarch has done wasn't for money or power. It was out of absolute necessity. She confirms that Paul has actually seen the end of time, and that the lifeboat protocol is the only option left. Honestly, I still don't vibe with Paul, but his villain motivation is starting to make way too much sense. Putting philosophies aside, the doctor tells us that Will's old machine is effectively a giant paperweight. Why? Because a massive power surge occurred right inside the swimming hall at 7 AM on the day of the fracture. This is hours before we even reached the swimming hall back in Act 2, and hours after Will apparently left. This massive temporal echo basically fried the core, and in order to reset the power relay, we had to manually hit 3 separate buttons. But because Will apparently hated the idea of a central control panel, these buttons are inconveniently placed around the machine. While we are climbing around trying to hit all these buttons, Beth is casually helping us on the ground and just drops the fact that when she was a little kid, she was actually visited by her future self. This future Beth handed her a detailed journal containing every single event that would have ever occurred in her life, including this exact moment, everything up to the end of time, and a detailed plan to fix the fracture. With the relays reset, we finally fire up the time machine, and we are finally ready to leap back in time, go right back to the original lab where it all started, and steal the countermeasure from Paul right before he can take it. Jack and Beth stand in front of the activation hatch, but right as Jack is about to step into the chamber to join Beth, we then see the doors suddenly close. Dr. Amaral was secretly sabotaging the machine and sent Beth Wilder to an absolutely unknown point in time. And not only that, she actively activated a beacon, letting Monarch know exactly where this secret swimming hall is located. With Monarch closing in, Jack realizes he can't save Beth, but he can still follow through with the original mission. After walking in a full circle, we touch down into the year 2010. Everything here is completely different to what we thought it would look like. Instead of machines, we find graffiti and canvases all over the place. We eventually hear gunshots echoing from a closed off area right next to the time machine. We investigate, look inside, and we finally see her. It's Beth, but she looks completely different than she did 2 minutes ago. She's just in regular civilian clothes, but they're covered in 11 years of dirt and wear, looking like she's been living in an absolute wasteland. We finally learn the horrifying reality of what actually happened.
This is it. There's no turning back. Jack?
Umbrella didn't send Beth directly to 2010, she sent her to the future, straight to the frozen post-apocalyptic end of time. While Beth was stranded in the future, desperately trying to find a working time machine to get back to the past, a familiar figure was doing the exact same thing, Paul. They both managed to use a machine to escape the apocalypse, which dropped them right back here to 2010. This original 2010 lab infiltration is actually the first ever encounter between Will, Beth, and Paul. And because Beth already knew what the future looked like, she is the entire reason Will built the countermeasure in the first place. Jack immediately tries to console Beth, playing the classic hopeful protagonist role and telling her that it's fine, we're here now, and everything can still be fixed. But Beth completely snaps. She gets furious, shutting us down entirely and telling us that absolutely nothing can be changed. She explains that no matter what choices we make, no matter how hard we try to fight, all the pieces inevitably fall into the exact same places anyway. Looking at her face, you can see it clear as day. Beth has completely lost all hope of saving the world. With the reality of the timeline crashing down on us, we head straight to Will's workshop at the dock to finally grab the countermeasure. Unfortunately, the universe throws yet another wrench in our plan. It's locked inside a safe, and we don't have the code. While Beth desperately tries to crack the safe, our job is to lock down the perimeter and stop waves of Monarch soldiers attacking us from the outside. After clearing out the construction site, we rush back into the warehouse and walk right into a standoff. Beth has the safe open, the countermeasure in hand, and she is actively pointing her gun straight at Paul. Beth tries to take the shot, but Paul activates his powers, warps completely out of the way, and shoots her right in the arm. The countermeasure slips from her grip and violently slams onto the floor. The impact instantly activates the device, releasing a massive wave of unstable temporal energy that leaves Jack, Beth, and Paul writhing on the ground in pure agony. The feedback is so intense that it forces Jack into a violent temporal slip, dragging him right back into the future. When we snap back to reality, we can only watch the devastating temporal echoes of what happened right after we slipped.
No, Beth, come on, move. Beth, get up. Beth, come on, get up. Please, Beth. You need to move, okay? Yeah, that's it. Get the gun. Come on, Beth, move. Come on, please. Beth, move! Paul, don't do it. Don't do it, don't! I'm not wrong.
You can't.
No! Serene had the countermeasure the whole time. I had to get it back.
A rash decision. You claim Beth Wilder's death had no impact on your behavior, but...
Like I said, I barely knew her.
So, what you did next? It wasn't personal?
No.
And just like that, we find ourselves staring directly into Junction 4. We switch over to Paul, who's acting completely erratic as the final stages of the Chronon disease actively destroy his body from the inside out. To make matters worse, there's only one single dose of the Chronon treatment left on the entire planet. Paul has a massive paranoid decision to make.
One of my treatments. But it's damaged. Is it safe to use?
Sir? I didn't catch that.
Or is it a trap? Another betrayal.
In the surrender path, you'd see Hatch actively aiming a gun at Liam Burke, Paul completely succumbing to extreme paranoia, and a surviving Charlie Wincott actually clutching up for us by giving Jack the exact instructions on how to access the countermeasure. If you have absolutely no idea who Charlie is, that's understandable, since he's only seen in the live action episodes. In the control path, Paul takes the final dose of medicine, temporarily stabilizing his body. Not only that, he successfully brings Liam Burke back into Monarch, which in turn makes him the blockade standing between Jack and the countermeasure in the final act. I officially locked in the control path for this run as we charge straight into Act 5. Act 5 drops us right into the final stretch. Time is completely flatlining and we are sprinting towards Monarch HQ, but we aren't here for Paul. Our goal is to break in and steal the countermeasure. The second we reach the entrance, the game sets the tone because a literal train flies straight through the building's walls. While we navigate the first floor, we hear Fiona over the comms. She's yet another character you'll only recognize if you actually watch the live action episodes. As we climb higher up the building, the game decides to test our patience and throws two giant juggernauts at us in a room with pretty much zero cover to hide behind. We survive by the skin of our teeth, push forward, and we finally break into Paul's office, but the desk is empty. Paul calls us on the phone to gloat, telling us he isn't even there. He's actively heading after Will's time machine. We ignore his trash talk, crack open the secret door to the countermeasure vault, and find Liam Burke inside.
Just one of you. Really? Look, you have to realize you're not going to keep me from the CFR. Don't look like you're in any shape for this.
Because of our control path choice earlier, he's basically already half dead from his injuries. The boss fight is pretty easy, we don't even have to kill him. His chronon suit just stopped working and he succumbs to the time stutter right in front of us. We snatch up the countermeasure and sprint over to the massive time machine that Monarch dragged all the way from the university. We clear out one last wave of guards, step into the core, and set the coordinates all the way back to the exact day Jack arrived on campus in Act 1. We touch down on the campus and fight our way through hordes of past soldiers on our way to the library. Along the way, we realize the mysterious sniper who helped us survive Act 1 was actually Beth Wilder the whole time. We sprint into the library and the game gives us a 15-second timer to save Will from the collapsing roof. But as we try to make a run for it, two Monarch guards step directly in front of us. The game gives us a choice, hide or attack. We listen to Will's advice to play it cool and not interfere with the past anymore. And amazingly, the guards just turn around and walk away. While sneaking out, we look over and see the absolute mind-bending reality of the loop. We see our past selves getting dragged into the back of a Monarch van, and we see past Beth. Jack naturally wants to walk up to Beth and try to change things, but before we can do anything stupid, Will's voice cuts in and reminds us that what has been done in the past cannot be changed. We take a step back, accept the timeline, hijack Nick's taxi, and drive it straight to the swimming pool facility to use the other machine to head back to the present. We return to the present day, a massive time stutter locks the room down, and Paul finally appears for the true final showdown. And honestly, this boss fight is one of the dumbest, most poorly designed encounters I've ever played through. It took me an embarrassing amount of time just to figure out how to avoid Paul's massive red chronon nukes that instantly wipe your health bar. And once I finally sweated my way to the second phase, the game decides to start throwing two bombs at us with all these boxes around the arena that constantly block your path and stop you from dodging his attacks. But after like a million restarts, we finally defeat Paul, release Will from his frozen state, and activate the countermeasure. Out of nowhere, a heavily glitched out Paul jumps us, but the countermeasure successfully does its job. The fracture thaws, reality snaps back, and Will starts talking about how there's absolutely no remaining indication that the fracture is still here. Meanwhile, the camera reveals Jack is completely freaking out and glitching in the background. We then get brought back to the Monarch interview.
Was that time is a set path, and nothing can be changed. At the time, you obviously disagreed. But after everything you've seen and done, we need to know. What do you believe now? Was he right? Or is it possible to change things?
I'll come back for you.
It's time to move on to the cleanup phase. We kick things off with the ability achievements. The first ability we look at is Time Shield. For this achievement, we need to deflect a total of 200 bullets, which is easy enough. Then we hit the Time Stop achievements. This is the part where it kind of gets a bit grindy. First things first, we have to fully upgrade the ability, while also getting another achievement for upgrading all the abilities. Then we have to accumulate a 1 whole hour's worth of frozen time. And finally, we have to get a total of 1,000 bullets stacked onto this time stop bubble. If you try to do this normally in hard mode, it's kind of a nightmare. It's actually a lot easier to just shoot enemies, so I never actually use this ability. But I figured out that if I loaded directly into Act 2 Part 2, cleared out the ground troops, and left the enemies that got stuck in the upper level completely completely alone, it was a lot easier to be able to stack these 1,000 bullets. Whenever I ran out of ammo, I just scavenged the ground for different weapons, came right back to the corner, and just kept stacking more bullets into it until I got the achievement. Now to wrap up the rest of our time powers, we used Time Rush in order to traverse a total of 100 meters, which takes a total of like 5 seconds to do. And finally we had to use the Time Dodge ability in order to get 10 clean headshots while using the Dodge Focus part. Now this brings us right into the regular gunplay achievements. First things first, we had to destroy 15 Chronon harnesses that are on the backs of the Speedster enemies. And after that, we had to kill 15 enemies using environmental explosions. Both of these are again fairly easy. Now we'll focus on the collectibles. We dive back into all the chapters to grab every single intel item, Quantum Ripple, alongside hunting down all the emails, corporate presentations, TV shows, radio broadcasts, and posters hidden across all the acts. Now, with all the Quantum Ripples in a single chapter collected, we then watch an episode to get the next achievement. Now for the final stretch, all we need to do is go back to each junction and choose the opposite path to the one we chose. And with the final junction path, we pop the ultimate achievement for completing 100% of the game. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how we became the masters of time.
You've been very patient with us and very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that patience is starting to wear pretty thin.
Of course. Right outside.
Mr. Joyce.
Finally. Thought you wanted to talk, not get my life story.
Well, you were at the heart of all of this. And you can understand our need to find out exactly what happened.
I heard it's all being pinned on Paul. It's quite the feat.
Paul Serene always danced to his own tune, you know that. He and his delusions did tremendous damage to Monarch. But we can still salvage this company. We could use a man like you. It's not the same Monarch you know, Mr. Joyce. Your exceptional qualities are obvious, and we both know you have certain needs our expertise could help with. We can help each other.